Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to review how to bind external properties using configuration properties annotation. We're going to experiment two binding approaches, JavaBean properties binding and constructor binding. So basically what we're going to do is by converting our properties here in application.yaml to our property beans. Okay, let's go ahead and create a corresponding class for our properties. The only dependency we need to have is Spring Boot starter. So as long as your playground is on Spring Boot, you're good with it. Or you can just simply create our playground in startup.io. Just it. And then generate. Once you have the repo opened in your favorite IDE, then you can rename your application.properties to application.yml and copy paste these properties into your application.yml. So as you can see here in build operator, we only have Spring Boot starter dependency. Okay, let's back to create a class in Redmi. As you can see in the previous video, we need to create a corresponding class annotated with configuration properties. So basically, we have a prefix, and my service common attributes is similar to the properties. So these attributes will be presented by this field. So for example, we have altered system email, read timeout, threshold limits, currencies. This will correspond to the alter fields, system email fields, read timeout, threshold limits, and currency. At the moment, to make a symbol, we see we can treat all of them as a string. Like this one is a string, another string as well. So we have a field string altered, string system email, strings read timeout, so on and so forth. And the next field is supported country. So as we can see, we can treat this attributes as a map. So we have a map named supported countries. The map supported country. And in this map, we have a key is the country name. For example, Germany, Spain, and a value. You can see a value could be another map, or we can present it as another object, like a country object. So in that object, we have two fields, the ISO 3 code and a time zone. ISO 3 code could be presented as a simple string, but for time zone, we consider it as a list of string. Like we have time zone Europe, Berlin. For time zone of Spain, we have Europe, Merit, and Atlantic Canary. Okay, that's it. Let's go into create our classes. Okay, once we have our property beans, we need to enable this properties configuration property class. So it depends on the approaches we choose. So basically we have two approaches, right? Properties, JavaBean properties binding. So I quickly say properties binding and a constructor binding. So it depends on it. So if we choose properties binding, we can enable our configuration properties class by enable configuration properties, or we can add a configuration properties scan, or we can add a component like I explained in the previous video, right? For constructors, only two first conditions are available. So basically, we cannot use with a stereotype annotation like component service controller, so it won't work. Okay, then let's use the first enable configuration properties that works for both properties binding and constructor binding to enable the configuration class and test it by auto-write to our application runner bin. Okay, then we're going to use enabled configuration properties, and to use it, we need to add it to any configuration class in your class path. So basically, enable configuration properties. Then we go into provide my service configuration class, and that's it. Then we can create a runner to test it. Here, application runner, and we're going to add application runner here. Okay, then we auto write my configuration, my server configuration, and okay, so to make a symbol, just put a breakpoint, and then let's start it. So I'm going to run. So here we see we are already have a bin of my server configuration, and it means that this one, this enable configuration properties, and the configuration properties here work perfectly. Then let's see what we're going to have in the bin. So everything is null, even though we have the bin, but it's not set up correctly. Then back to our readme. Okay, so at the moment we only have one default no argument constructor implicitly created by Java. So as you know, Java will create no argument constructor by default for us if we don't explicitly declare any constructor. So as you can see here, we don't have any constructor explicitly declared. That's why Java will create a default no argument constructor for us, and it leads to the use of properties binding. So thus properties binding requires a setter in place for most of the case. So basically, if you take a look at the documentation, the setter may be omitted for this case. There's some case you don't need a setter, but most of the case a setter needed to be added. Then let's go into generate our setter for our fields. Setter attribute similar in country as well. Setter here, and then let's rerun application. Okay, now we see our attributes is going to be set up correctly. So we have map, right? Key is Germany, and we have key Germany, and values is instance of country. And in this country object, we're going to have the ISO 3 code and the time zone at a list. In this list, have only one element, Europe Berlin, similar to Spain. 2, okay, meet. Okay, then if we don't like no argument implicitly declared for us, we can explicitly declare it. And then we can check the way Spring Boot work with constructor and setter. And let's go into create a empty constructor. Then we can constructor. And here, let's add something. I would like to put a breakpoint here and a breakpoint here. Okay. Then let's rerun application to see how it's work behind the scene. Okay, as you can see, the first Spring Boot will go into create. So look at the start, the trace start here. You will see that it's going to initial a bin first. So that's why it's going to use our empty constructor, no argument constructor. Let's move to the second breakpoint. So if you take a look at the start trace, you will see at the moment we are using a JavaBeanBinder. After we initialize the instance, we are going to use the JavaBeanBinder. So JavaBeanBinder. That's why we call it a JavaBeanPropertiesBinder, because we use JavaBeanBinder to set our properties. So our properties at the moment is linful, right? So our properties are the altered. Okay, the attributes, and then we're going to use the setter to set the attribute. Then so here, that's why it's called set attribute. And then you see the altered is the properties of an attribute in application.yml and set it into our altered. So it will happen similarly to other things as well. So for example, then we see read timeout, and then set email, yeah, and then after all, it will set all of our properties. Then we're going to have our properties bin with every fields are all set. Okay, this setter, we're going to set an attribute to our instance. Now let's move on to constructor binding. So instead of use the no argument constructor, we can use all argument constructor to switch from properties binding to constructor binding. Then let's add the all argument constructor and run our application again. Okay, then here, don't need to put any breakpoint here. And then we have one no argument. I'm going to have another constructor, but this time is full argument constructor. And then let's see. Let's put one here again, one here. So let's see which kind of binding approach being chosen. Oh, so even though we have the full argument constructor, but our empty constructor being chosen and then set, so it means that we are still using our properties binding even though we have a full argument constructor. So then we have the first note that if we have no argument constructor in place, so it will be used along with properties binding. So in order to use the all argument constructor with constructor binding, we have to remove our no argument constructor, or we can use constructor binding. Okay, let's use constructor binding first. So by using constructor binding, I give a hint to Spring Boot that I would like to use this constructor to create our instance instead of using the no argument constructor. And let's run it again. So you see, now we're using our all argument constructor with a constructor binding annotation. So here all of the properties are fulfilled for us, right? And then we can set all of our thing and without being catch at any no argument constructor and set third. Then we run to our application runner with anything fully set. Okay. Let me. So if we can, then we only use one argument constructor to trigger constructor binding to avoid confusing. So basically, I'm going to run it again, but this time I'm going to remove our empty here. And since we only have one constructor, is a full all argument constructors, we don't need to add this annotation. And then let's see again. Okay, so we are still using constructor binding because it's used the all argument constructor. Okay, then that's good. So with all argument constructor, we don't need to have any setter, right? We don't need to have any setter. Let's back to readme. So the advantage of constructor binding is that we can keep our beans immutable by not exposing setters and only return immutable object through getStart. For example, okay, then we don't need setter anymore. Remove all setter and remove setter. And that's it. Without setter, we can still create properties bin without setter, right? Then okay, everything's good. Support this countries no. Okay, because we don't have the full constructor here, let's add a constructor. Good. Then run it again. Okay, so good so far. then we can really, so for example, we can, because sooner or later you will need a setter to get these properties in use, like, then let's create a setter. So basically this is what we're going to have, and replacing, because it's going to export our state and other can change it. So instead of this one, we're going to return a unmodifiable map instead, similar to our constraint getter. So if we go getter, and instead of return a list, we're going to return a collection. Nope, unmodifiable list. Okay, that's good. So now, if we look at the stack tray, okay, we're going to see a configuration properties binder will be used instead of the JavaBeanBinder, right? And it means that we're going to use constructor binding. Okay. Okay. Set configurations. Let's put in any constructor. Okay. Then here we're going to see abstract binder. Configuration properties binder, and then we create a binder, right? You see, remember that we're going to review it later. So we're going to use our configuration properties binder, and we create a binder, and then we bind. Okay, that's it. So but just for you know that we're going to use our configuration properties binder. So that's why we call this approach is constructor binder. Okay. Let me. Okay, then let's test it with other solution. We know that by using constructor binding, we are not, it's going to be not running, right, with the component, right? Then, but it's still good with component scan. Then we can do it again. Okay, everything's successful. Then instead of using this one, I'm using configuration property scan to see if this works or not, and run again. Okay, it's still working. Right, and let's using a component here. Okay, and run again. So it's not gonna work, right? Don't like JavaBean properties binding. With JavaBean property binding, so if we add component here, it's still working. But for constructor binding, it's not gonna work. Then let's back to our first option here. Okay. And another thing that since we're using constructor binding, then we can so make our class fully immutable, right? That's good. Running, everything's work fine. Okay, what's the next step? Okay, if you observe in detail, you will see that this class is now functioning like a record, right? Immutable, only have one argument, all argument constructors, and there's no setter, right? So we can easily realize that we can use record as a configuration properties bin. So basically, let's update. So class record. Let's update our class into a record, and then we're going to have string altered. Okay, copy it. string altered, what's that? Altered email, concurrency, country, right? Okay, then don't need this one. We can get rid of the full argument constructor and this getter as well. So it depends on your favorite. Then you could use class and you could use records. It depends on you. Records. So striker is static by default, and we don't need static. And strings and time zones. Okay, that's it. Okay, by using record, then just simple. Our configuration properties bin is now simple like this. And then let's check again. Okay, let's work. Okay. Okay, so good so forth. Red meat. So with the simple records here, everything works the same. Okay, so let's move to the next one. Properties conversion with converter. So Spring Boot try to convert external application properties to the right type when it's bind to the configuration properties bin, but obviously not the type. Then okay, let's see. Okay, so properties conversion. So you can see some things already supported for us, like duration, right? Durations, anything else? Period, right? And data size, for example, and a lot more. So in our example, we are going to use duration, big decimal, currency, and zone ID. So basically, we know that so our red timeout could be duration, right? So this one could be duration. Duration threshold limit. So the money, the threshold money. So we can use the big decimal, right? And currency, we can use currencies. And for country, we have the time zone. We can use the zone ID. Okay, then let's run again. Here we're going to see, okay, we have red timeout is now duration object, and the threshold limit is now big decimal object. The currency is now currency object, and we have time zone here is an array list of the zone regions or zone ID. Okay, it's good. Okay, so what if we have a new data type, and obviously it's our custom data type, so it's obviously not supported by string, right? So how do you do with that? So for example, we're going to create a new type called full name, and we apply this full name for our altered, right? So for altered, in full name we have the first name and the last name. Then let's do it. So we have full name here. So instead create a string, right? Remember, it's my name Linh Vũ, right? Full name altered. So I would like to have it separated, first name and last name. First name and last name instead of the whole string. Okay, red meat. So in order to do that, we need to implement a converter and register this converter as a configuration properties binding and create a bin. But you can use a component or you can use a bin, so depend on you. So for example, we're going to create a converter. Okay, full name converter. and we go to implement a convert from our string to my full name type. Then they ask us to implement our method convert. So we have a string, right? And then we go into slip it. For example, I know there are only first name and last name. Then I'll slip it by space, and then I'll create my full name. Okay, that's it. And we're going to add the ConfigurationProperties binding. Then we can add a component here. A component, but for example, we can add component, or we can create a bean from one of our configuration class. For example, I'll put it here. Now create a bean and as a bean, so whatever you want. So register is at a bean, and then okay, I hope everything's work fine. Now let's run it again. Then here, so we have the authors now is full name type. It's not the string, right? And in author we have the first name and the last name, so it's worked perfectly. Okay. Let's back to make it more simpler. I'm going to add the component instead. Component. Okay. Run again. Make sure everything still works. Okay, that's good. So what happened? Why having a bin of converters? Then we can use these converters in our constructor binding approach. So basically what's going to happen here is, remember that in our constructor binding approach, we are going to use the ConfigurationPropertiesBinder, right? ConfigurationPropertiesBinder. And in this binder we have getBinder. Remember, we're going to get binder, and in getBinders we are going to create binder one time, and after that it's going to reuse the binder, right? And in binder here we're going to add a conversion. Okay, for simplicity, just put a breakpoint here, getBinder of the ConfigurationPropertiesBinder. Then here, okay, then we'll see that it's going to create a binder for the first time. And in order to create a binder, it's going to call the get conversion services. And in this one, okay, in this one we're going to get conversion services. Get conversion services here. Let's put it here. Then it gets the conversion. And then in this get conversion services, it's going to from the application context, it finds all the converter beans, right? The normal converter is not registered as a bean. Only our converter is registered as a bean. For all the converters, they're not, right? And basically, so our converter bean here, we only have one converter, is our converter, full name converter. And this converter will be registered to one converter service. Okay, so if we have a list of converter service, so we have the first is the one that have our converter, and the last one converter here. Okay, string 2. So it means that our bin of custom converter will be registered to the converter's service used by the binder here. Used by the binder of the ConfigurationPropertiesBinder, and that's why it takes place in convert our properties to our right type, our custom type. Okay, and in the end, we're going to have everything set up correctly. Alright, well, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you get something out of it. Thank you so much for taking your time watching this video and the series. As always, see you next time. Happy coding!